We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And it is the Doomsday Podcast as we come to you live from Oxnard, California, site of Cowboys Training Camp 2019. Ed Werder on the scene, Frito Nation Productions, of course. It is the Doomsday Podcast. And Ed, I have to say, there was a murmuring, I would say, a kind of a dull roar that started as we approached training camp yesterday. I thought folks were pretty excited to see the Doomsday Podcast show up.
I think
some of the coaches.
I think they're a little shocked to see that this enterprise is still up and thriving, and that
I don't know why
that we have the
shocked.
financial wherewithal to take it on the road after 3 years. I think that's a surprise. I think most people didn't think you could manage this big an operation, man.
I don't know anybody who doubted this. Other than you, but
I just look forward to going over those expense reports with you again this year at the end of this camp.
I know, I love doing that with you and going by each one. Boy, it has been an interesting camp so far, and we'll react to some of the things we've seen. We've already second round pick Tristan Hill, and I think our podcast has had more on him in background than any other podcast. He's already been carted out of here with conditioning issues. Although at this morning's walkthrough, as we tape this on Sunday afternoon, he was back out there. I thought
he was able to gut it up and
Yeah.
make it through a walkthrough in 72-degree temperatures. I thought it was a bold move by him.
I liked it.
It's got to be a little bit troubling when you invest as much as they have in this player who came here, as we know, with question marks about his willingness and dedication to preparation and practice, because normally professional athletes do not find themselves dehydrated in a non-padded practice that lasts less than 2 hours in 70-degree weather.
No.
It's very uncommon. I can't imagine what Jimmy Johnson's reaction would have been to that had it happened in Austin, Texas. I believe we would be having services today for Tristan Hill.
I think it could have gotten ugly. Maybe he would have used the famous asthma fields over there. I thought that was, it was great news, because when you see a player carted off, you're like, oh gosh, what's happening? You saw what happened with the receiver from the
AJ
Green was carted off. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. News has come
Sterling
down.
Shepard and
Sterling
Giants.
Yeah, and so you
Coleman.
get scared. But this guy just had cramps. He was just out of shape. All right.
And Jason Garrett, by the way, we just finished listening to Jason Garrett's press conference.
Yes.
And he tried to minimize, I guess, the conjecture around what that meant. Tristan Hill saying, hey, this happens to a lot of young players who don't know how to properly acclimate themselves. And so we go over nutrition and hydration, and hopefully they learn from these types of situations.
Yeah, I would hope.
I was surprised Jason didn't take him to task, as I know you were.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that would happen. All right, Frito, it's time. Go ahead and play the music, sir. All right, there it is, the Doomsday Podcast, our training camp edition. And Ed, before we get to our first guest, who was a really good one, and we've both known Jon Kitna for a few years, and I know you've enjoyed visiting with him. He shared some really interesting things, not only about Dak Prescott, but one of the things in particular about Dak I thought was pretty remarkable, and we'll have that interview. I would just say this: in our early time here at camp, Ed, the Zeke Elliott thing obviously is kind of coloring every conversation. Although I will say, interestingly, after the first day of practice yesterday, Friday was the opening news conference. Was there a Zeke question at the Jason Garrett news conference today? I was listening to most of it.
Other than just how he's going to use the running backs that they have here, and they have really very little playing experience behind Ezekiel Elliott, and I think it's interesting that, to me, the most compelling part of where the Cowboys are with Ezekiel Elliott is that the irony that both sides seem to really have a just position. I think both sides have a sensible reason for where they are, which Zeke, wherever he is, and the Cowboys being out here and so far not being able to accommodate him in terms of his contract, and that both sides can point to this time last year when the Rams signed Todd Gurley to the biggest running back contract in history. And, Ezekiel Elliott can say, hey, Todd Gurley got that deal when he was at the exact same point that I'm in my career. I just finished my third season. I've been the NFL rushing champion 2 of the last 3 years. I deserve to be paid like he does. I'm as important to you as he is. And the Cowboys can point at the Gurley contract and say, the Gurley contract proves from my point of view that it was a foolish endeavor to make a long-term commitment with big money to a running back, because now the guy couldn't even get through that first season without being managed in terms of his carries because of the health concerns about his knee. Now, Zeke didn't come into the NFL with a bad knee, and he doesn't have arthritis in his knees that we're aware of, but he does have the potential, as we all know, of getting himself into trouble off the field. And I think the Cowboys hesitating, if they cite that as the reason, is a totally understandable point of view.
Yeah, and we'll see how this all goes. I would say I love a good walkthrough, and I know some of the writers out here have always talked about, Mosley, you seem to notice a lot of things in these walkthroughs that we don't see. But I would just say...
You have a history of attending walkthroughs? I wasn't aware of that.
Maybe...
I guess whenever I'm responsible for driving you over here, as I am now, you do make the walkthrough.
I did make the walkthrough today, and I would say this. The Pollard, I'm ready to kind of get the Tony Pollard excitement going.
Zeke will appreciate that.
Kind of liked what he was doing. Kind of like some of those throws, right in the middle of the field there. I promise you, I'm going to label... There's going to be some... He's going to become a camp phenom. The more... When they finally get to this padded practice, which I think will happen tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of Tony Pollard talk. I want to get ahead of this.
So that the Cowboys could try and make Zeke feel a little bit uneasy about his absence, which I
think so.
Dak said after practice yesterday that he's sure that Zeke, as much as he loves his teammates, as much as he loves the game, probably doesn't like being away from training camp. And... But as he said, business is business, and it's for him to take care of at this point.
All right, I think we need to get to our first guest, and a lot of folks obviously have signed up wanting to visit with us and that kind of thing. But Ed, let's begin with a guy that we've both covered over the years now, the quarterbacks coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jon Kitna. And I thought it was appropriate that today's news conference with Jason Garrett, he really had some great things to say about Kitna and how special he is. And, he loves to use that word ball. Boy, he loves ball.
He's a ball guy.
He's a ball guy. But I think he described him as pure. He is a pure person, and I kind of think the same thing as Kitna. Kitna almost, it could be annoyingly so back when he was playing. It's really... What he cares about is football, and I think he's an interesting guy to talk to.
I think it's interesting that Jason characterized him. I think the way people saw Jason during his career as a backup quarterback in the NFL, which was, hey, this is a really bright guy who communicates with players really well, and when his playing days are over, he's going to be a coach. I mean, Garrett said that's the way they saw Kitna toward the end of his career, and let's be honest, Jason Garrett. We think we've been saying this for about 3 years now, I think, but I think Jason Garrett is coaching for his job for real this year, because obviously Jerry made the very conscious decision not to extend his contract. He's been in this situation before. In 2016, it produced 2014, it produced great results. They won the division and got to the Dez catch in the playoffs in Green Bay before they finally ended their season. But there's no question in my mind that Jerry means it this time. And Jason is coaching for his future, and a lot of their success is going to be determined by how well the offense plays. They fired Scott Linehan. Kellen Moore is a first-year offensive coordinator. Whether he's the primary play caller remains to be determined. Jon Kitna is here coaching the most important position, the quarterback's coach, or a young quarterback about to get paid for the first time in his career. So this young coaching staff, these two young guys on Jason Garrett's coaching staff are essential to determining his fate as the Cowboys head coach.
I think you're right, and let's get to it right now. The Doomsday Podcast, Ed Werder and myself, sat down for a really nice, lengthy discussion with the Cowboys' new quarterbacks coach, Jon Kitna.
And I think people, I know you're shaking your head because I've just interrupted your launch into the interview, but I just wanted to say, I think it's important to say that this is like a 19-minute interview, and some of the very best stuff is in the final 5 minutes. So listen to it all as well.
Every single bit of it. Now I give you Jon Kitna. Jon Kitna, the longtime NFL quarterback, is now back with the Cowboys for his second run with the Cowboys, and the quarterback's coach. And John, I know this has been a lifelong dream of yours to be on the Doomsday Podcast, but what is it? Is it surreal? I mean, this is your first NFL camp. You've been in a bunch of them over the years, but where you're coaching instead of playing. How does that feel?
It's surreal to be sitting between you two on this podcast. That's what's surreal.
I hear that.
Yeah, it's different for sure. And, to be a coach, and I'm excited about it, though. I feel like, I always tell people, I coach kids, right? Coach, what should I do when I grow up? What kind of job should I look for? And I always tell them, you're looking for two things: a place where you can grow every day and a place where you can add value to every day. And I feel like that's the kind of situation I'm in. I feel like every day I'm challenged and stretched to grow, and I learn more from guys like Jason Garrett, from Mark Colombo, from Kellen Moore, to Ben Bloom, to Rob Marinelli and Chris Richard on the defensive side. It's like every day I'm growing, and then I feel like I have something to add and value to add to the program.
You got a quarterback here in Dak Prescott who was drafted in the 4th round, seen as a developmental guy, instead winds up starting every game his first 3 years, winning 32 times, which is highly unusual for a young player, much less one drafted so late. What are your points of emphasis with him in terms of his mechanics? It seems like he's proven he's got great instinct, great competitive qualities, a lot of intangibles. What about the mechanics that you think you can help provide that will make him a more consistent player?
I wouldn't use the word more consistent player or the phrase more consistent player. I think just to be a better player is you're always tweaking and trying to find ways that you can get a little bit better. When you're at the professional level, that's really what it's about. You're not looking to take huge leaps. I don't think he needs to take huge leaps. He's had a tremendous first 3 years, and unfortunately, when you're in Dallas, the standards are a little bit different. And but he does a great job. We're working on footwork like we do with all the quarterbacks. I think footwork is the key to it, key to playing that position. And then to be honest, with him is we're spending a lot of time just talking about defenses and where the football is going to end up against certain defenses, against certain fronts. What are we going to do with the football? How can we get somewhere faster? But he's made great decisions over 3 years. Been a really effective and productive quarterback, and so it's just trying to find little things, and a lot of times it's asking him like, hey, where do you think you want to work on, and what's an area of focus for you? So we have a good relationship that way.
So you're trying to get more benefit out of pre-snap reads so that you can eliminate the likelihood of going somewhere and not even bother to look at it once the ball's in your hands?
So we can play faster. And a lot of people talk about tempo in their offense, and certainly we want to have tempo too. We don't necessarily think that's a pre-snap thing. We think that that's a thing that happens as the ball hits our hand and get rid of it. You think about Tom Brady, rarely does he have the ball in his hands over 2.5 seconds. He's getting rid of the thing and those things come. That wasn't always that way, but just trying to work through those things and match things up with our system on how we can play a little bit faster.
Has it crossed your mind that you were the quarterback who helped Jason Garrett get this job, in a sense? He was the interim guy, and y'all rallied around that thing, and then he was hired. Now he's going into the final year of his contract. It's not always a real, it can be a little uncomfortable for a head coach to be in that spot. What is that like? Do you guys, I know you want to win, but do you feel any even more motivation knowing kind of what spot he's in right now?
I wouldn't say that, and this is my first year coaching at this level, obviously, so it's not really in the thought process. And the great thing about Jason, and it's the thing that I've said for the last 10 years, he's been the same since he He took the job. He's very convicted in what he believes is right and how to do things organizationally. And I think people always ask me all the time, what makes effective leaders? I think the number one thing is consistency and conviction, and he has those things in abundance.
You were hired at kind of an odd time in that the Cowboys coaching staff was, coaching the Pro Bowl team, and you were brought there. The hire hadn't even been announced yet. Tell me about your first exchange with Dak in Orlando at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it was interesting. He got on the bus, and I was already sitting down. He sat down right next to me, and we just had a great conversation, and just getting to know each other a little bit. And then, the thing that stood out to me is just his approach, even there at the Pro Bowl, was just so professional and getting to work. So it just really impressed from the beginning with him, and that relationship's just going to continue to develop and grow and mature over time.
He's looking at a situation. I'm sorry, man. He's looking at a situation now where, for the first time in his career, he's about to make starting quarterback money on the high end of the spectrum. But the deal's not done. How has his focus been? Do you see any effect of that uncertainty with him?
No, but again, I wasn't here last year, so I don't know the difference. But he's a pro. He takes notes every single day. This is our third time going through our installation schedule. He's taking notes like it's the first time he's seen it. He's clearly seen these things for 3 years, and he's just, pro's pro. It's really a testament to him and the way that this team is really. We got a lot of those guys. It starts up front with the offensive line, and Jason Witten certainly doesn't hurt that either. Just the approach to how you do things at this level, and so. I don't know anything to compare that to in terms of him, but his approach is tremendous.
Does he remind you? You've been around a lot of quarterbacks. You helped mentor Carson, and kind of you held him off for a little bit, even when he first got into the league. What does Dak make you think of any of the many quarterbacks you've been around?
Yeah, I hate to compare. The one thing I've said about him is watching him throw the deep ball reminds me of Warren Moon, and the ease that it comes off his hand, and the tightness of his spiral when he throws the deep ball. That's what it reminds me of. But I think he's just he's a very unique quarterback. He can run effectively. He's very smart, and then he can make every single throw. And again, first 3 years in the league, and with all the changes they've had at the receiver position, and to be completing over 67% of your passes, that's really hard to do. And so it speaks to him and his talent level.
So you're predicting he will be in the Hall of Fame?
There's no predictions here.
I got a question for you about your, it was fascinating to me when you took that head job at Waxahachie, not only because I used to be in their district. I played at Kaufman, and the Indians, and they used to,
you guys won so many games.
They had so many, they had the politically incorrect, I don't know if they still do when you were there, but they had the huge headdress and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they hadn't quite moved past that Waxahachie. But your time as a head coach, and boy, you learned the insanity of the parents and what high school coaching can be about, but the passion. What can you learn from your time as a high school head coach, not only at Waxahachie but your other stop, that you're able to bring here?
I think the thing that's really helped me is being a head coach and understanding what makes a great assistant coach. When you're a head coach, you know that. And even at the high school level, you get like that guy that is always keeping things off your plate, or man, he gets something done, he gets his task done, but he gets it done in excellence. It's not just okay to have it done, but to get it done and know that it's done right. And so, I take a lot of that same approach as, things that I was looking for in an assistant coach, trying to have that same thing, but obviously on a whole much greater scale here. And but the head coach has enough on his plate. He doesn't need a lot of pettiness from assistant coaches and little things that should be handled by grown men.
Bill Polian, who's in the Hall of Fame as an architect of building great football teams, told me when you signed to coach in the AAF, now defunct, sadly, you were going to coach with Mike Martz, right? And he told me that you have more head coaching potential in the NFL than many of the head coaches just hired in the most recent cycle. How much of that is an ambition of yours as you begin coaching at this level?
Well, until 7 months ago, it was none. My dream, my wife and I, our dream was to coach high school football forever. Be 85 years old, retire, coach at the same place, retire, leave a legacy, have kids that have brought their kids back to your program and go to their weddings and all that stuff. And it didn't turn out that way. And God kept pointing the needle back towards NFL football. And so now that I'm here, I'm just trying to be the best quarterback coach I can be. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm learning a lot. And to be a head coach in this league, there's a lot that goes into that. And having been a head coach at the high school level, just the high school level, like, I understand that. I understand, a little bit of what that looks like. And so I never want to do anything until I'm ready. But, I want to, no matter what I do, I want to be the best at it. And so I just want to be the best quarterback coach. And we'll see what happens from there.
There's a lot of interest in what kind of offense this is going to be and what it's going to look like. Scott Linehan obviously fired for lack of imagination, or he was criticized for that. What do you think we're going to see under Kellen Moore?
Well, I think the first thing you're going to see is an offense that, to be honest, for the first time in now the fourth year that Dak's been here, a collection of guys that have been together before. That really hasn't been the case here. With Dak taking over for Tony when Tony got hurt, now that's new. And you got to figure that out. And then, the next year with the change and things that happen in the receiver core and all that stuff. And so now you got guys that have been together, that have worked together. And so you're just going to see an offense, I think, that would be a lot more comfortable working together. And so much, the good offenses have the unspoken things, right? You can just look at a guy and know exactly what he's going to do. I think you saw that in the back half of last year when they got used to each other, and then adding Jason Witten back, and with our offensive line, just watching those guys work. That offensive line is just it's really amazing. It's really amazing to see the communication that those guys have. It's on another level. So what kind of offense do I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be an offense that it's an attacking offense. It's going to attack all areas of the field. It's not going to be confined to one area. And it's going to look, the run game is going to match up to the pass game. And the things are going to look the same. Make defenses be honest and not be able to load up to any one thing, whether that be the pass game or the run game.
Obviously, you'd prefer to have Zeke here, but is there any way to look at this as like a blessing in disguise type thing, in the sense that you get to look even more at these young guys and give them an opportunity to grow? Can you, as a coach, do you guys on the offensive side of the ball, kind of have that outlook on this?
Again, the answer to that question is everybody wants Zeke here. When he's not here, it's a good opportunity for other guys to grow. But it's just such a difference. You got the coaching, playing side, and then you have the business side, and those things have to meld together. It's going to get figured out. But the answer to that is no. We want Zeke here.
Yeah,
and be able to give him a day off and get those other guys reps.
That would be the better way.
It is what it is.
Did you ever come close to holding out?
Oh, all the time. But they always met my demands. So.
Well, that's the best position of all to be in, isn't it? And especially when you're dealing with Mike Brown.
That's right.
Oh my God!
You really make Mike Brown cave? Even Carson
demands.
Palmer couldn't do
every
that.
one of them.
That's your legacy.
He always had
right.
leverage on those guys.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, explain the Fruit Loop quote, the famous Fruit Loop quote about Dak.
Yeah. I mean,
people question his accuracy, and
right.
And you said at minicamp that hey, when he does everything right, he can throw it through a Fruit Loop.
Yeah, just just the pinpoint accuracy and throwing it, and that's really what when it's not okay to just complete the ball. It's the NFL, and we want guys to have yards after the catch. There's been a lot of guys that have high completion percentage in this league that their receivers never had yards after the catch. We want yards after the catch, and that comes from being pinpoint accurate, putting the ball exactly where you want to, front shoulder, back shoulder, right in the middle of the body, putting it on the nose, whatever it is, and as we saw in the spring, he was the last 2 weeks in the spring. It was just like he could make every throw and make it exactly where he wanted to be. It was over the top of guys. It was underneath guys. It was through windows. I mean, it was tremendous. And so, he's really. It's been impressive.
I know you don't have a lot of context because this is your first year, but he's always been regarded as a guy who, even in college, who doesn't impress you in practice, but he's a great performer in games. Are you seeing a better balance in that regard? You haven't seen him play in a game as a coach, but
I don't know what it was before, but I know, when I watched us this spring, I mean, his completion percentage was over 80% in the springtime, and so, I mean, we're operating at a high level. He's operating at a high level, and I think that comes with time. And to be honest, I have a hard time saying this is what a guy was like in college. The game is completely different here. The emphasis is completely different here, from meetings to practice and all that stuff. And so, he's whatever perceived weaknesses there are. He's worked hard at becoming the best he can be. I don't think he really thinks about what people are saying. His first conversation with me was, I don't just want to be good, I want to be the best there ever was. That was his first conversation. And he said, whatever you got to do to get me there, let's go. Coach me as hard as you can. Put it in writing. Coach me as hard as you can. I want to be told when I'm right. I want to be told when I'm wrong. I want you to ride me. I want you to tell me ways that I can get better. And he's never wavered from that.
Is that pretty uncommon in the NFL?
I think so. But he's kind of uncommon. I've said that. He's kind of uncommon.
Yeah, that is a remarkable thing that Jon Kitna just told us. John, last thing, your commitment to the buzz cut over your career and coach has been pretty impressive to me. Have you ever let it grow out or considered doing that, just kind of letting it maybe
considered growing out? This is growing out.
You need a haircut right now.
Right now, I need a haircut.
The Kitna mullet would be a wonderful thing.
Three boys, and we always had the same haircut. But man, that's gone. That's gone by the wayside. These guys, they've all grown their hair out now. I can't even recognize them. Yeah, it's totally what they know. They look good. I make them keep it nice. They look good with it. But no, man, I got a straight. My hair is not going to do anything. It's just bone straight. So
yeah, I'd like to see it. By the way, your son, I'm glad you brought that up. Frisco Reedy High School, is that right? Now, what year will he be? I hear he's a really fine young quarterback, so he will be the starting quarterback probably at Frisco Reedy this season.
Well, he's competing. He knows the deal. It's you're the starting quarterback till you're not, and that's how it works. But they got a good program over there. I love what Coach Cole does, and he had a good spring. He moved with me right away in February and was able to get in there, and like I said, they run a good program, but. He does a good job. He loves playing quarterback, and he loves working at it. And there's never a time that he's like, yeah, I've had enough. He always wants to work. So,
what's his arm compared to yours at that age?
All my sons. I sucked as a quarterback in high school. Let's be honest. So I was fortunate to have Greg Olson. When I got to college for 3 years, who taught me a lot of mechanics, and then I was really fortunate to have Dennis Erickson and Rich Olson when I got into the league, and then obviously Ken Zampese and Ken Anderson, and then finally with Coach Martz. Things he taught me, and then coming here with Jason and Wade. So, those guys, my sons are far better than I was.
John just checked his Mickey Mouse watch to see if he could continue this conversation.
I think he does. No, hey, John.
There's a lot of guys in the NFL that you love just talking football with because they can educate you, and John is certainly one of my favorites in that.
Well, yeah, he's never said anything like that to a guest. John.
He can't say how good I look.
Thanks, John, we appreciate it. No, there he was, Jon Kitna. Ed, I think John was appreciative that I'd noticed the haircut that he's always stuck with, that short hair, and that'll be kind of fun to watch his son one it out Frisco Reedy. who is going to be, I think, a big-time quarterback. And I think
is he one of Jerry's grandkids?
No, this is Kitna's kid.
Okay.
I don't know what you're implying.
Jerry's grandchildren are phenomenal athletes at the quarterback
At least
position.
that one.
At least the one. Jon Stephen.
Jon Stephen is in Arkansas now. But this youngster, the Kitna's son, is going to be out there at Frisco Reedy. But Ed, I mean, this is a guy that just I remember him for being important with Tony Romo. And one of the things he convinced Tony Romo of, and Tony had been in the league for a few years, but he finally sort of got through to Tony that, listen, every single decision you make affects the entire franchise, not just the offense. I mean, the defense. And I think his point to Tony was, occasionally it's okay to punt the ball or to live for another day, live for another down. And Tony had that gunslinger, and I think mentality, and I think it was a really good time in Tony's life to have Jon Kitna as backup. And I think some of that same wisdom that he gave Tony, he's going to be able to give to Dak Prescott.
Well, I think the biggest difference between Dak Prescott and Tony Romo to this point in their careers is one guy is risk adverse, that being Dak Prescott, and the other guy, Tony Romo, was often careless with the football. Now, he did make he recovered and corrected that tendency remarkably well later on in his career. But Dak has always, been a guy who believes in protecting the football. That's the way he's always played. So I don't think he has to be convinced of that, having that mentality. I think the thing that is interesting is that Kitna, he acquired this quarterback or inherited this quarterback who's a great competitor. He's beloved by his teammates. He's fanatically competitive, has great leadership qualities. The thing everybody questions about him are his mechanics and his accuracy in delivering the football and hitting receivers when they're open and knowing who to go to and when. And I think those are the things that Kitna can really change Dak's performance by his desire to be more fundamentally sound and mechanically oriented. The footwork's got to be right. The shoulder's got to be pointing a certain direction when you're in a clean pocket. Those are the positions where Dak has really failed most often, is when he's in a clean pocket. And I thought the interesting thing that he said was he's got to go to the line of scrimmage and know what he's looking at and decide, hey, that's supposed to be my first read. That's gone. That's not even going to be there. So let's just go right to number 2 right from the start. Making quicker decisions, playing faster on offense, I think was an interesting point he made.
And that'll be interesting to see if they, all this pre-snap magic. I can't wait to see. Did you get to see any of that in yesterday's practice? Did you see some of the
all the shifting and motioning and bunching of
loving all this.
And
But the thing that he shared that Dak had said to him that really caught our attention was the fact that Dak had, in maybe their first meeting ever together, Dak told him, and I think they were even, you brought it up, maybe they were on the bus together at the Pro Bowl and said, I want to be the greatest ever. I mean, that's pretty amazing that Dak would even say those words.
And he said it was.
I think you could help me do this.
And I want you to help me do this and do it by whatever means are necessary. Coach me hard. Put it in writing. Coach me hard. Tell me when I'm wrong. I mean, there aren't a lot of guys who have had his level of success, and as unexpected as it's been, coming from the 4th round to winning as many games as any starting quarterback in the NFL in his first 3 seasons, except for Tom Brady. Pretty phenomenal performance and mindset that I know I can get better, and I know you can help me get better, and I want to use that resource to its fullest. I think it's a pretty uncommon approach in the NFL, although I know that Josh McDaniels has told me in the past, and he's coached Tom Brady in I don't know how many of these Super Bowl seasons, but most of them, and that his mindset was, hey, Tom Brady expects me every day to have something in the meeting room that's going to make him better. And as close as we are, as soon as I don't do that, he wants somebody else. So it's kind of, that's how how demanding quarterbacks can be of their coaches in their pursuit of perfection, which I think in that regard it sounds like Dak has some of those same qualities that Tom Brady does.
And Dak, as far as I know, has only been on one podcast in his career, and it was the Doomsday Podcast, an exclusive at some high-end North Park jewelry store. I don't know if we're still talking to them or not. It is the Doomsday Podcast. Ed Werder alongside Matt Mosley, live from Training Camp 2019. And this goes along with our kind of we've kind of landed and we focused on the offense. I think that's appropriate. it. But our next guest is a new wide receiver for the Cowboys, and someone, speaking of great quarterbacks, he played with Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the greatest of all time. And Ed, I'll let you introduce this one, since you will not let me actually introduce an interview without interrupting me. But
I'll let you introduce it. I was just trying to make sure that listeners stayed around for the full thing.
I think our listeners, our stats show, our analytics show that they never leave us. They truly never do. But Randall Cobb, interesting addition to this team, and I thought he was an interesting guy to talk to.
Well, especially when you think about it in the context of what they have at wide receiver now versus what they had at that position a year ago, when Scott Linehan and the other offensive coaches were trying to convince us that this not having a true number one receiver since Dez Bryant had been released was truly a great way to go, that defenses wouldn't know which guy was going to get the most attention, and letting that kind of player evolve naturally into a number one receiver. And, they were looking at Allen Hurns and Tavon Austin to potentially be that guy. Well, now they have that guy in Amari Cooper. And Michael Gallup is a guy who should make a quantum leap from a pretty good rookie year to his second year in the NFL. And then there's this guy, Randall Cobb, who has tremendous versatility and has been a very productive player when he hasn't been injured. And I think he's got a lot to add to the offense. And his charge is to replace Cole Beasley as the slot receiver.
Yeah, that's what he's being asked to do, and I thought the receivers coach, who is on some kind of scooter right now because he blew out his, what did he hurt?
Sanjay Lal, his Achilles, or he tore some tendons in his ankle. Water skiing in the Bahamas?
He was doing a slalom in the Bahamas. He was slalom skiing. First of all, I go to the Bahamas. I don't usually ski. I do that at lakes, so it's kind of interesting.
There was a shark attack down there that was fatal. Maybe that's why he decided not to snorkel or scuba dive. He decided this would be a safer venue to avoid the sharks.
He was banged up, and he's on a little bit scooter, but boy, he had some great things to say about Randall Cobb, and that comes up. Here is our sit-down interview with one Randall Cobb, new wide receiver for the Cowboys.
Randall Cobb, straight off the practice field where he was putting in some extra reps today. And Randall, first of all, your first official training camp session, you had to walk through this morning, but this afternoon practice, how did it feel? It's got to be a little surreal after all those years with the Packers to be with a new team.
It's just different colors at the end of the day. Football is football. You walk on the field, it's still a pigskin getting tossed around. And, I'm just trying to fit in with my new teammates and do everything I can to be the best teammate I can.
The story goes that during Super Bowl week at the NFL Honors, you saw Dak and you went to him and said the famous words that Eric Thomas said right after the game to Jason Garrett, which is "Come get me."
Yeah.
What made you interested in the Cowboys?
Earl Thomas. It was all out of fun. It was a joke. I didn't really know if that was even an option at that time. It's just crazy how things work out, and that I ended up here and we're able to work together.
We were just talking. We've known Sanjay Lal for a while. And one of the things he was really bragging on you was your work ethic. He was saying you really put your typical day is pretty impressive. What is your regimentation? What do you do to kind of get yourself prepared for each day, especially here in training camp?
Obviously the physical aspect of it at this point is the most important. So getting warmed up before practice and doing all that I need to do, getting some ball drills in, getting on the jugs machine, catching some balls during special teams periods when I'm not working. Going through my one-on-ones or individual periods with intent, not just going through emotions, but trying to get better in everything I do, because those are the moments that you create those opportunities for yourself.
When you have a great running back who's kind of the identity of the team away from the team and you're not sure when he's coming back, as a receiver, does that get you guys talking about the possibility of the passing game being a bigger factor early in the year at least?
No, we're not really, worried about that right now. Hope that situation gets taken care of. But, at this moment, it's all about building each other up and trying to be the best that we can be on the field. And, as receivers, whether we got a great running back on the field or not, we're trying to do everything we can to get open and create opportunities for this team.
Do you have any sense yet for what kind of flexibility there might be in this offense? Mike McCarthy in Green Bay was often criticized for not being very flexible and creative. And obviously in a new system here, do you have a sense for how that may work out?
Kellen's done a great job so far of, putting guys in multiple spots and different positions, working me and myself, Coop, inside, outside, tight end outside, doing a lot of things, moving Tavon around, Gallup in different spots, creating different opportunities for all of us, different matchups, and trying to find a way to exploit defenses.
Obviously you played with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you and Aaron have a great relationship.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Favre.
No, he didn't go back that far. Randall's not that old. Ed was very close to Favre, by the way, and he used to spend time at Hattiesburg waiting on him. But is there anything Dak does, even in his just approach to the game, that reminds you of Aaron at all? Are there any similarities that you've seen?
Everybody always wants to compare people.
Yeah.
They're great in their own ways and different ways. I love what I've seen from Dak so far. His will to want to get better, his work ethic, the things that he puts in every single day. I'm an observer. I like to sit back and watch things, and the way he communicates with everybody, he does a great job with being a leader on this team. He makes great throws. And I'm just trying to build that chemistry with him. You saw us after practice today getting a little extra work. I just want to see how the ball spins in the air coming out of his hands. So the more I see that, the more comfortable I'll be with it.
When you had to develop chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, you also kind of faced the challenge of proving yourself to him, right? And proving trust, earning his trust. Is that the same here with Dak, or not so much now that you're a proven player?
That's always the case when it comes to a receiver and quarterback. It doesn't matter who you play with, what kind of relationship you have. It's about that chemistry, and for the quarterback to be able to trust you in different situations and scenarios. And, every day in practice, I want to build that trust whenever he throws my way to make the play, for us to be on the same page, with little different variations that we have in some of our routes. So I'm working on that every day.
What were your impressions from afar of Jerry Jones, and now that you've actually met him, what's that been like? Because it's a little bit different. The Packers, as I recall, sort of have everybody's the owner. They don't have that certain figurehead kind of person. How different is this? Yeah,
he's definitely the face. You see it. You see it in the production, everything out here. The way we travel, the things that we do here in Dallas. You definitely see it. I didn't know what to expect. You see him from afar. In interviews, post games, and those kind of things, and you don't know that person personally, but he came and talked to us last night, opening in the camp, and you can definitely tell how passionate he is about this team and this organization and everything that he wants to do with the Star.
How much of your decision to come sign with Dallas was made on the basis of this is a team that you think has potential to go to a Super Bowl or championship game? Those type of competitions.
Well, definitely. You play this game for championships. That's the reason that we all come out here. There's 32 teams right now that's fighting to be in that game. And, I definitely looked at the teams across the board that were interested in me, and I saw this to be a perfect fit with that opportunity. On paper, we have a really good roster. We have a lot of really good players, and it's about these moments in training camp, putting it all together to be the best team that we can be.
I heard that maybe you worked with like a track person or something this summer, or somebody with a track background. What was that about?
Yeah. A few off seasons. Last year I didn't get the opportunity to. I was coming off an ankle injury, so I had ankle surgery last off season, so I didn't get to run. But normally in the summers I try to do some track workouts. That's what we do as receivers. That's all we're doing is running. It's like a track meet every day for us in practice. Running routes, running deep balls. All those different things. So building that leg endurance for a long stretch of the season is important.
What was your race in high school? Track?
I ran 100, 4x1, 4x2, and that was it.
Did they want you to do it in college as well?
No, I wasn't. I didn't have that kind of speed. I consider myself fast, but I ain't got world-class speed like that.
But you're making a living with it now.
Yeah, definitely.
Randall, thanks very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Appreciate y'all.
The Doomsday Podcast. So you have heard of the old Doomsday defense from the Cowboys. Yeah. I hope you'll download this podcast and make it a part of your rotation.
Hey, we'll see.
Do you listen to any podcasts?
Not much sports. To be honest with you.
Oh, what other kind of stuff? Financial? Politics?
Politics, financial, history, a little different stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I get enough sports with ESPN.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we certainly don't understand any of that stuff. The history.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn.
You're learning. Randall, appreciate it.
All right, Ed, I would say, that's hitting the ground running. Pretty strong first episode from here. We'll see how many we want to do. We may even pocket one and take it back to Dallas with us. We're going to be out here for a few more days. And
Jason Witten said he was going to sit down with us at some point.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I'll take him up on that. Yeah. But maybe we will. Maybe we'll talk to Witten. But I thought Stephen Jones, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Jones would be good.
A lot of pressure on Stephen Jones in this training camp to get some of these players signed.
Yeah. And thanks to Paul Catalina. Hadn't he done a nice job? Our on-site.
Is this the guy sitting across from us right here?
Yeah, that's Paul. Yeah.
He joined us at Winchester's yesterday.
That's right. Man loves some duck skins. But he's done some good job, like on the scene, producing. Obviously, Frito back in studio. But Ed will continue to do this. And today, I think I'm really going to get over there and take a little stronger look at some of the drills so we can tell people, okay, who looks good. I was watching some of the replays yesterday, or some of those defensive where they were hitting the dummies, and like Malik Collins, Antoine Woods. These guys. I want to look at Quinn. Is he hurt? I'm trying to remember who's on the PUP or whatever. But anyway, I want to look at all these guys and really give our folks a good sense. Anything you're going to be looking at in this afternoon practice today?
I'm going to be making sure that you're doing exactly what you just promised our listeners you're going to do.
Not at the swimming pool.
Make sure you're not strolling the beach or something like that.
I'm going to go write a column before the next practice for Pressbox DFW, and then
you have this innate ability to just promote all of your various enterprises in a way that's really not at all jarring to the conversations existing at the time.
That's right. And then you can listen to me on ESPN Central Texas on Monday morning. It really all sort of comes together. But thanks to everybody who's been a part of this episode. Been a really good one right out of the thanks to Jon Kitna for joining us, Randall Cobb, obviously the strong work that Paul Catalina did for us, to Mark Friedman, and to you, Ed. You've done yeoman's
on
work.
The list. Amazing.
And you didn't go to.
I almost got overlooked.
You didn't. No, you're like a headliner.
Have you seen the credits when the movies come? Like Russell Crowe's not last.
No, but that wasn't even. You took that the wrong way. And I appreciate you not eating last night. That will help our.
I didn't say I wasn't going to turn an expense report for it.
No, let's not. Let's keep our budget.
I did learn
down.
yesterday you're not allowed to have an appetizer at lunch. Company policy, apparently.
That's right. Leave those appetizers alone. Okay, it is the Doomsday Podcast, Episode 1 from Cowboys Training Camp. It's in the books. Have a great day, everybody.
Shining, stockings have been hung. You're praying for your daughter, lighting candles for your son. They're living in the city now, you don't see them anymore. This year will not be like the ones before. And the streets are all but empty, the bars have all shut down, and it's hard to find a friend inside this godforsaken town. That emptiness, it feels from your head down to your toes. I'm sorry, baby, that's just the way it goes. Once you were a young girl with lovers by the score, money by the handful, you never wanted more. But they tend to leave you as time has its way, and they leave behind little mouths to feed the dreams. And the days go by so slowly when it used to go so fast. Whiskey does not taste as good when you only pour one glass. There's just no way to know which way the cold wind blows. I'm sorry, baby, that's just the way it goes. all come down, the carols have been sung. You're aching for your children, for the time when they were young. Back when all you wanted was some time to yourself. Back when your life was something else. And I wish that I could tell you what it takes to stand up tall. But the moral of this story is there ain't no moral at all. It happened all for you, and it will again, I suppose. I'm sorry, baby, that's just. I'm sorry, baby, that's just. I'm sorry, baby, that's just the way it goes.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.